Hi members, my name is Michael Lafayette and I'm pleased to be your RAR CVR MLS legal counsel. Today I want to go over the CVR MLS as-is addendum. You know, the as-is addendum can be used in many different situations. It's sometimes used when there's a multiple offer situation and you have a purchaser who wants to make a very aggressive offer to the seller, say, hey, I'm willing to buy your property as is. Sometimes it's an investment property that is truly being advertised as is. So it can be used, in many different types of circumstances. So I want to make sure you're aware that CVR MLS does have an as-is addendum, and that's what we're going to go over today. All right, so the as-is addendum is pretty comprehensive, and I think it is far better to use the CVR MLS addendum, as-is addendum, than it is to insert it language into the contract yourself, okay? Because it's far more comprehensive. So if you have the as-is addendum, what you'll see is we've separated it into two different paragraphs. The first paragraph allows for an inspection of the property. Now this is different than paragraph 16 of the purchase agreement. If you remember, paragraph 16 of the purchase agreement does allow for the inspection, but it also allows for a request for repairs, cost of repairs, and all those kinds of things. While in the as-is addendum, although there's the inspection, there is no request for repairs, no cost of repairs, none of that. So it is a very specific paragraph in the as-is addendum when it comes to the inspection. It allows for the inspection only of the property, not for any request for repairs whatsoever. So you would insert the information that you wanted for the length of time for the inspection in paragraph 1. You can conclude the inspection, and then once the inspection is finished, then you make a decision. If you're representing the buyer, the purchaser makes the decision. What do I do at this point? Do I move forward and purchase the property, or do I terminate the contract? So paragraph 1 of the as-is addendum allows for that. So it allows for the inspection of the property, but also gives a right for that purchaser to have a right of termination if they're not satisfied with the results of that inspection. Okay, so there is a built-in time frame of 10 days for the inspection period in the as-is addendum. So if that time frame doesn't work, it's okay to change it. So if you want to increase the number of days or decrease it, that's one of those negotiable items. Okay, so it's just a matter of putting in there what you wanted to that meets the concerns of your particular buyer client, and also what the seller is willing to accept. So paragraph 1, again, very straightforward in the as-is addendum. It allows for the inspection, and it also would allow for the termination of the purchase agreement if the purchaser is not satisfied with the inspection. Now, if the purchaser is satisfied with the inspection, then the transaction would move on to settlement. But it's also important to understand what paragraph 2 means. What does it mean to buy a property as is? So we spend a fair amount of detail in paragraph 2 explaining what an as-is purchase is, in particular with respect to this addendum. So first understand, it is perfectly legal in Virginia for a purchaser to buy property as is. And what do we mean by as is? That means it can have defects. It is perfectly legal in Virginia to buy property that has defects, okay? A seller can't lie about it or commit fraud, but so long as they don't do those things, they can sell a house that has defects. So that means if the roof is leaking, if the foundation is crumbling, the HVAC doesn't work, all that is fine. There is nothing illegal, there is nothing wrong about selling a house in Virginia with defects. If the parties enter into the as-is addendum, that is exactly what it says. It says that the purchaser is buying the property in its current condition at the time the contract is executed, which, as you know, we call that the date of ratification. And it also says that any and all representations or warranties with respect to the property other than title, okay, are waived. So that means there's no well or septic inspection, there's no termite inspection, none of that. So there's no other inspections, and there's no warranties or repairs with respect to anything related to the condition of the property. So paragraph 2 is very, very on point and explains to your buyer client, but also for the benefit of the seller, what it means to be as is. So it's really important that your buyer client read paragraph 2 in particular to understand what it means to be as is. No repairs, no warranties except for the title. Okay, so that means, again, there will be no septic inspection, no termite inspection, no well water inspection, nothing at all will be done with those things. So if any of those things are malfunctioning, don't work, broken, whatever term you want to use, that's how the buyer is buying the property. They're going to buy it as is with all those conditions in place. Okay. The only requirement the seller has, pursuant to paragraph 2, is to make sure that the house remains in the same condition that it is from the time of the date of ratification to the day of settlement. So if nothing happens between the date of ratification to the date of settlement, seller has to make no repairs whatsoever. The only time a seller would have to come in to do anything is if the condition of the property after the date of ratification changes. For instance, if a tree falls on the house, that is a seller responsibility to fix the damage to the roof because that roof damage was not there as of the date of ratification. If a pipe burst after the date of ratification, then that would be something else that would have to be fixed. So in other words, anything that happens after the date of ratification would need to be repaired by the seller because that's not the same condition that it was as of the date of ratification. All right. So other than repairs to any damages that occurred after the date of ratification, seller has no responsibilities. So in other words, so long as nothing breaks down, nothing is broken or a tree falls on the house, nothing like that happens, seller has no responsibilities whatsoever to make any repairs. So it truly becomes an as-is transaction. So by executing this as-is addendum, here's what I recommend. Paragraph 16, I recommend you just draw an X through the paragraph and just say, see the attached as-is addendum. It's not legally required that you strike out paragraph 16 or write in see the addendum, but I think it does provide a good narrative so someone reading the contract understands, oh, paragraph 16, did they forget to check one of the boxes or not? What is it, whatever they, what has the buyer done or what's the intention? So if you strike it off and say, hey, see the attached as-is addendum, I think it gives good instructions to that particular seller so they understand what's happening, and then they'll turn and they'll say, oh yeah, here it is, here's the as-is addendum. You don't have to go through and strike out paragraph 24E, F, or G, because the addendum takes care of that. It specifically says that those paragraphs are stricken from the contract, so you don't have to go strike those out. I think the only one you really need to take care of is paragraph 16. So in closing, the as-is addendum is a very good addendum. Don't try to write it in yourself because, as you can see, it's a whole page. You have it in front of you, and that's a lot to write into the contract. Normally, you'll leave things out if you try to do that. So use the comprehensive as-is addendum, and it'll get you what you need to do for purposes of an as-is sale. Okay? So I wish you luck with your transaction. Hope you have a great day. Thank you.